Hey everybody, welcome back to the Whiteboard Finance Show. I got a real treat for you guys today. This is Chandler David Smith, who has a YouTube channel with right about 100,000 subscribers at the time of this recording, and he's getting right around 300,000 to 400,000 views a month. He's absolutely blowing up. He has a ton of different content, mostly relating to real estate, cars, earning your own active versus passive income strategies, and I definitely want to dig a little bit deeper into that with him. Thank you for joining us today, Chandler. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So you're the guy that's known on YouTube most famously for, you have that one eviction video, you have some videos with the Strad man, you have videos on increasing your credit score. But the way I know you, because I actually met you in Idaho Falls, we actually toured a lot of your real estate properties, and we also drove your Tesla, which was freaking awesome. So I believe you're in your late 20s, is that right?
I just turned 30, Marco.
Oh, okay. Happy birthday, man. You look old. You look really old.
I'm getting there, man.
I'm just kidding, man. I'm 33, so it's up until you're 35, it's all good. When you're 34, you're like 21, and then the second you hit 35, it's like you're 45, So
See, I've been saying that about 30. Up until you're 30, you're good. So I'm glad you're changing the story for me.
For sure. So the way I best know you is owning, I think 120 plus units at this point of real estate. So for a guy that just turned 30 years old, how do you even get to that position? What was the income that you earned, and how did you do that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I honestly, if I'm honest with you, I started at college where I wasn't making any money, and I was trying to find a job. I applied all over and I couldn't get a job. And someone approached me to come and knock doors and sell pest control. And so I said, hey, that sounds good. Let's do it. So I moved across the country to LA, California for 3.5 months. And I started knocking doors. And at first I was not good, but it turned out I was actually pretty good at it. So I sold 459 year contracts that first summer.
Wow.
And I made just a little over $96,000. So that was where it started. That was back in 2012. And I said, hey, there's something to this. So I went back, I attended college. I was recruiting on the side. So once you sell over 250 accounts with our company, you can then manage a team of 15 people. So I was trying to hire 15 studs. I did that in the off season. I went out the next year and I sold even more accounts, and my team sold really well too. So I made $144,000 that year. That's when things kind of clicked for me. And I said, hey, there's really something to this. So I went back the following year, did the same thing, except for I had a couple teams. And with those couple teams, that was where I made just shy of $250,000. And then the rest is history. Every year since, I've grown every year, and I've made more and more money doing that. And naturally, I needed a place to put that money. And so I started investing in real estate.
Incredible. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into, why real estate, but I got to ask you, man, from someone from the outside perspective, selling pest control, that doesn't even sound like a real thing. That just sounds like something you do as a kid in the summer. It's like, is there really that much money in that? Like, that sounds incredible to me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound right. It's a weird job. Like, it doesn't make sense. And so every time I go and tell people about it, I think it's hard for them to understand. But just to put some things into perspective, my sales organization this year sold over $15 million worth of pest control contracts. So you can start to see there is a lot of money that we are bringing in the door from knocking on doors and selling pest control. The other thing that I think a lot of people think is they think we're out there with a can of Raid, spraying around after we sell them. But we're the 7th largest pest control company in the United States. So we're up there with Terminix and Orkin and those big dogs. Mm-hmm. And we offer a year-long contract where our guys go and sell it, and then they're paying, $600 plus to have a warranty on their home for a year that they're not going to see bugs.
Interesting. So I've been in sales a big portion of my career, at least on the early end. I sold cars after college. I sold technological services. I worked for one of the biggest resellers of Microsoft in the Midwest, so I have a little bit of that knowledge as well. I was an account manager. What are some of the things that the young people listening to this podcast, or just anyone listening to this podcast in general, what are some of the biggest things that you've learned just being in sales, but not necessarily, landing the deal and closing the deal, but just like, what are some of the skills you learned just by being in sales in general?
It's such a good question. And this is one of the things I tell every person that comes into my organization. I say, look, you're going to make great money, but the skill set you're going to get out of it is going to be more valuable through your life than the money you're going to make this summer, 100%. And it's because, when you can learn how to connect with someone, you can learn how to deflate confrontation, you can learn how to get someone to listen to you when they weren't planning on listening to you and don't even want to listen to you, and you can get them calmed down. Like, that is something that it doesn't matter what job you're going into, what career you're going into, whether it's for an interview, whether it's for working with clients, whether it's negotiating a big deal, this skill set carries over into all of those things. And I'd be the first one to tell you that, in the last couple of years, I've landed $1 million or, millions of dollars worth of real estate deals that I would not have landed had it not been for my experience on the doors.
Interesting. So now that's a natural segue. Why real estate? Why not just YOLOing Tesla calls or buying Bitcoin? What made you take that, initial 96 grand, 144 grand, and the money after that? What made you really get into real estate?
You might argue with me on this, Marco, because you are the whiteboard finance guy. But for me, when I sat back and I looked at it, I wanted to control what I purchased or what I invested in. I wanted to be educated in it. And for me, stocks and bonds and, Bitcoin and everything else, it didn't register like real estate did. I had done flips with my parents growing up. And for me, real estate, I just enjoyed it. And so I think that pushed me that direction. But also when I did my research and found that I could find properties that would pay me 20% returns every year in cash flow, and close to that again in appreciation if I bought in the right markets, and principal pay down, and I could leverage my money so that I could purchase $100,000 worth of real estate with 25% down. And then also you go into tax benefits and cost segregation and being able to not pay tax on any of those returns, and even get a deal on my taxes, you could say, by using that cost segregation against my active income as well. It turned out to where I'm getting 50, 60, maybe even 70% returns on my initial investment. And for me, to be able to control that and get that kind of a return, it just didn't seem like there was a better place to put my money.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the benefits. Like, why does the IRS want you to own real estate? What are some of the benefits of not just the taxes, but also, we have principal pay down, we have, the tenant paying your mortgage, leverage, all that stuff. What are some of the advantages of real estate compared to stocks, for example?
Yeah. So I would say, first off, leverage is huge. The fact that you can purchase a piece of property with as low as 3.5% down. And so that if you purchase a property properly, you look at Idaho right now, we've averaged somewhere between 10 and 15% appreciation. Control. Did you lose me there?
For a second, I hear you now. Yep.
Cool. So with leverage, now you've got the ability to control $100,000 worth of real estate with $3,500, but you're still getting 10 to 15% value add on that property every year if you purchase in the right market. So that's $10,000 to $15,000 because you're using leverage. So leverage is probably my favorite part about it. But then principal pay down, that's money that's going towards your mortgage that looks like an expense, when in reality, it's counting towards equity for your property. So that's a big deal. But then when it comes to tax benefits, cost segregation is something that you can't really get into until you've got a lot of property. But with me using cost segregation, when I buy a massive property, instead of having to depreciate it over a 27 and a half year schedule, I can depreciate a ton of it in the first couple of years, to the point where all of my cash flow is all that I'm paying tax on, but that depreciation can be used against that cash flow to where I'm paying nothing. And a lot of times there's extra. And if you set things up properly, and I probably won't dive into that, but you can then use that extra depreciation against your active income. So when I've got this high income from sales on a 1099, I'm now in a place where I'm not paying any taxes on the income from my real estate. And I can even use some of that on my active income. So now I'm not paying tax on that as well, purely because I've purchased real estate. So when you look at all of those, it really, even just the tax benefits, for me, if that was it, it would probably be worth it to buy real estate over other things. So were those what you wanted me to hit on?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, because I worked for a developer. I built properties myself from the ground up. We ended up selling them. I believe it was 17 or 18. I was with two other partners. For whatever reason, we sold. But yeah, I think a lot of people, they don't realize the benefits that go into like literally Uncle Sam wanting you to own real estate, you know, when it comes to a lot of the tax breaks and things like that. So let's talk about, those all sound great. Let's talk about some of the ugly sides of being a landlord. Like it's not all, you know, unicorns and, you know, rainbows and all that. One of your videos that I saw that was actually great. It was the eviction nightmare video. Evictions are a reality. You know, it happens because people are living in your property without paying you, which in my opinion is stealing. So, you know, sometimes evictions do have to happen. What are some of the headaches that do go into being a landlord? Let's talk about maybe the single family side, not necessarily the commercial side, just because I think it would resonate with a lot more of my listeners. But just say you're a single family home, you know, landlord, you own a couple of these things. What are some things that happen that are not all rainbows and unicorns?
Yeah. So I think some of the biggest stresses I've had, first off, you've got the liability. So I've had one situation where someone slipped and then they try to sue you. So that's one, you know, concern people have. If you have proper insurance though, it's not something you need to worry about, on top of making sure that you're managing the property properly so that you can say, look, we've done all of our checks and balances and we have insurance. So it's not a stress, but when you get that call, it's still kind of a stress.
For sure.
You've seen the eviction video when you get people in there and they don't pay rent and then you've got to find a way to get them out. That can be very stressful. And linked with that is when you have people go in and maybe you don't have to evict them, but they just disappear and they leave the property trashed. So those are the biggest stressors I've had to deal with, because all of them end up causing you stress and causing you to have to spend money. The thing that's really cool about scaling real estate is when I had a couple units, if any one of these things happened, it's devastating, right? Like you plan for it and you plan on 12% expenses just for this stuff. But sometimes it's way more than 12% when you've got a few units. But when you get to the point where I'm at, where you've got, you know, 114 rental units, 73 storage units, these things are still happening, but you never go above your 12% expenses because that's actually more than you need. And so it really spreads out that risk. So now when I have an eviction happen, I don't even know. Like it doesn't really affect my bottom line. If there's a $5,000 renovation or a $10,000 renovation, who cares? Like that was 1 month where we had something happen and it kind of evens out throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's kind of like smoothing your portfolio, if you want to make that analogy. So for people that aren't familiar, you know, if you have all your eggs in one basket, say one investment, you know, your portfolio is doing whatever that one investment is doing. But if you have 114 and 70 something storage units, you know, the gains are going to smooth out the losses as well. And it's just a blip on the radar as opposed to being a devastating situation.
Exactly.
Okay. So the thoughts on real estate values in the future. So right now we're kind of living through an environment with like super cheap debt, right? So low interest rates, a lot of people are borrowing money. What are your thoughts on like real estate kind of being at all-time highs, at least where I live and most of the country? Price per square foot is pretty much at an all-time high, at least for single family homes. What are your thoughts on that? Or is that sustainable? Are rents sustainable at this level? What are kind of your thoughts on like the future value of real estate?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think everyone feels differently about it. I think I'm just really confident that the trend that's always been there is going to continue. I don't think there's going to be another 2008. Maybe you'll disagree with me on that, but I never see us having that catastrophic of issues. But even if we do, had you purchased in 2008 and had you had the proper reserves to ride it out, you would still be up right now. I think that with a buy and hold strategy like I've done, I've tried to always purchase properties that are at so much of a discount with so much opportunity to add value that I'm at a place where, do I want the market to dip? No, of course not. But I know that I've bought in a way and I've kept reserves in a way that if it does, I'm comfortable and I'm safe. And I think the other thing is with the market at an all-time high, you know, people are saying, should I buy or should I wait? The people that wait are always waiting. I've come to find that it doesn't matter when, they always think there's a better deal. Yep. And because they're always waiting, they never learn how to find properties under market value. And so even if the market does dip, if the market dips and you're buying at market value, you're still getting a bad deal, in my opinion. And so when the market's high, if I'm buying 25% below the market, I'm comfortable. When the market dips, I'll buy 25% below the market and I'll be really comfortable. So that's kind of my view on it. I'm sure we're going to have issues in the future. I plan on it, but I've prepared for it.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between you and people that went into 2008 like super over leveraged, up to their gills and, just mortgages. I know a lot of people, man, especially in commercial real estate, I've seen people completely devastated because they're just so over leveraged. They didn't have reserves. But I think that if you go into it with your approach, do you have a certain like underwriting metric, or do you look for a certain percentage of reserves, or based on the rent, or, what is your metric for underwriting these deals, I guess?
It's a great question. I'm always going to keep 6 months reserves, and I keep 6 months rents. So a lot of people say 6 months mortgage. I like 6 months rents because it's more than enough. Like if something catastrophic happened and the market drops 25% and rents drops 25% and we had evictions like crazy, I could still last a year with nobody, or half of my tenants gone.
Yeah.
So, that's one thing. But when I analyze deals, I try to always stay above a 10% cash on cash return with 25% down or more. Now, I still analyze it that way if I can get into a property with a lower down. And then I know a lot of people look at cap rates or look at IRR. The thing is for me, I say 10 is my lowest, but historically I bought properties that are 15 to 20% cash on cash return. And I've purchased in a market where I'm very confident in the direction it's going. So I don't spend a lot of time with the IRR. I really focus on my cash on cash return and making sure that I'm not over leveraged. And if I find properties that then I can also add value, I'd usually like to add at least 10% in value by increasing rents, and usually a lot more than that. If it meets all of those criteria in a good area, I'm very comfortable purchasing the property.
Absolutely. See, I'm a bigger fan of commercial real estate as opposed to single family homes. There's nothing wrong with single family homes. I just feel like the value add component of, let's just say, a multifamily building, if you can somehow increase that NOI, that net operating income. So for people that aren't familiar with NOI, it's kind of like EBITDA. It's like earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. If you can raise that NOI and your cap rate is the same, that property just went up in value exponentially. Like say it's a 100-unit, multifamily apartment building. You throw in, maybe some, not granite, but you fix up the kitchens. You add maybe $100 a month per unit. You just raise the property, or you raise the value of that property by potentially, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, depending on the cap rate. So I think that value add component is huge. What are some ways that you've added value in the past to your properties?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am one of those guys that I have found my niche and I just hang right in that area. So
Smart.
Historically, I have done bigger renovations where you're talking completely tearing down all the walls, restructuring it, moving plumbing, moving electrical. And I did well on that because I had a huge margin, a huge opportunity. But I decided early on that wasn't the niche I wanted to stick in because it was a lot of work, a lot of stress, and it never turned out as good as I was hoping it would.
A lot of management.
The niche,
a lot of managing of those deals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the niche that I've found is I look for properties that have been mismanaged by older owners. I love finding an owner that's owned their property for 20 years plus because they haven't increased rents, but they take a lot of pride in their property. So their properties are actually in really great shape. So to give you an example, I purchased a 15-plex and a 32-plex this last year. The 32-plex I bought about a year ago, and I purchased it at $2.2 million. The rents on this property for every unit averaged $496 per unit. Now, I went in and I think 4 or 5 of the units needed a $5,000 renovation. That was the biggest renovation I did, which meant all new flooring, all new paint, all new baseboards, some new fixtures. You're good to go. 900 square feet, completely like really cleaned up. Nothing major,
refreshed.
No electrical, no plumbing. Yeah. The other units, we're talking like $500 renovations. I mean, go and clean up, maybe touch up paint, but the flooring we would leave, everything is really nice. But because of what we did and being able to manage it properly and raise rents to where the market was, we were able to take the rents from $496 on average. And I think I just checked them for this month. We're at like 825, 830
Wow.
on average.
That's awesome.
So you've got this property where I bought it at a 6 cap, which a lot of people would say, Chandler, that's like pushing it. And they're right. Like I would never buy that if that was finished product.
Yeah.
Now it's getting a 16 to 17% cash on cash return because of what I've done for rents. And right now on the market, I could list it and easily sell it for $3.2 million. So in the course of 1 year, this property has now gone up in value by over $1 million. And it's gone to the point where it's cash flowing over $100,000 a year.
That's awesome.
Those are the properties I love. And it's nothing major. It's just knowing that they're under market, knowing the little fixes to make, and then you're in the green and in a great place on a property.
Yeah, that's definitely a common theme that I see. It's either the burnt out landlord or the mom and pop that are mismanaging it. You know, they have pride in the property, but they either don't know how to market it. They don't know how to bring out that value like you do. And that's where the huge hits come in real estate. And then if you do a cash out refi, which is tax free, you know, it's a nice little check that you can use to, you know, do whatever you want with. That's right. Huge bump.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good. Thank you. So I noticed on your About Me page on your YouTube channel, you talk about thoughts on active income versus passive income and kind of combining or marrying those two. Tell us about your strategy with that. Obviously, that a lot of your money came from sales and the things that you do in day-to-day life, but how would you give that advice to my audience, active and passive income?
It's a great question. You're opening up. I just want to talk a lot on this one.
Please go ahead.
It. But so for me, early on, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I had a mentor, and I had a goal that I would only live off of my passive income. And so that meant at the time I had no passive income. So I was as frugal as I could possibly be. I mean, that year when I was making $96,000, I was making $144,000. I don't think I was spending more than $10,000, and that was including paying for my college. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are like, where were you going to college? The school I attend is a church school, and it's like $1,200 a semester. So it was nothing. I was living in super cheap housing. And so I wasn't spending anything. And then as I started purchasing properties, then I was living off of that passive income. Once I covered that $10,000, then I let my life kind of, increase in what I was able to spend and what I was able to purchase. A funny thing about me is I still was renting an apartment, and I think I owned like 20 something units of rental real estate and I was still renting. And now knowing more about house hacking and those other options, that would have been a better option for me, but I was just trying to live frugally and I wasn't focused on being creative. I had a strategy and I was sticking to it. Now, this is where I think I kind of have differed from other people is as I've built a bigger and bigger passive income. I mean, my cash flow on my properties now is probably somewhere between $350,000 and $400,000. Because that has inflated, I have had zero guilt and zero problem letting my my lifestyle inflate as well. So I've been able to buy supercars. I'm building my dream home right now. I've done tons of these things where I can afford it with my passive income. My active income is still very large, and all of that is still going into purchasing real estate. But I set a rule for myself, and that's something that I've been able to reward myself. And that's been more motivation to do more. And I think a lot of people would say, Chandler, you should be saving that money. Like, you've lost your mind the last couple of years. You were so frugal. But for me, that's the whole point. Like, I want to be able to give back. I want to be able to enjoy things that I've worked hard for. And I think the one other thing I will include in this is I've found a way that everything I do always builds on itself. So my active income pays me great, but I purchased real estate, and that helped me to recruit bigger studs because now I was around a lot of people that wanted to learn about real estate. They're the best people for me to hire for my sales organization because they're okay with not having instant gratification. Mm-hmm. They have these long-term visions. They're already saving their money. That's the guy I want to come out and have him grind for the summer because I know he's going to be okay with the struggle and the patience to make the money. So those built on each other. And then I said, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. Well, the YouTube channel has helped me find studs for my sales organization, and it's helped me to find more deals for real estate and make more connections there. So they've all kind of built on each other. So when I go and buy a supercar, well, here's the deal. Helps my YouTube channel because those videos always kill it. It helps me find more recruits because I'll find other ways to get people in the door. And then when I have activities, I just let them take the supercar. Like we did 50 test drives in the C8 Corvette at the last event that we did, because I don't care. Like I bought that car to build my business, not just to enjoy. So everything I spend money on, including my house. I mean, my house that I'm building right now is 18,000 square feet. Only about 8,000 square feet of that is living space. The rest is an indoor basketball court, an indoor pool, all things that I will use for my YouTube channel and that all of my guys will have access to for building our brand and recruiting and finding studs and flying them in and getting them to leave the job they're at to come and work with us. So everything I do, if you ever see me spend money, it's always for multiple reasons. Does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that I'm a big proponent of kind of like how Robert Kiyosaki talked about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because you brought up the book. If his wife wants an E-Class Mercedes, she better have a couple rental properties that are making that car payment or that lease payment or to even buy the car outright. So you're just doing that on a much bigger scale. So I feel like whatever you earn, as long as it's being earned, passively, why not inflate your lifestyle along with what you're earning? Now, if you're going crazy, obviously, that's a different story. If you're just, actively making money just so you can have nice things, well, you're kind of spinning on a treadmill or like a hamster wheel, right? So I think that your approach is super, super smart. I just had an interview before this one with Nick Loper of Side Hustle Nation, and we talked about kind of like net worth, looking at it as a pie, understanding what percentage of your net worth is in certain asset classes. And he actually proposed the idea of having a passive income pie. So not just, your net worth and the assets minus the liabilities. He talked about, how much money is your passive income bringing in. That way you can kind of have your money work for you. And I think you're a perfect example of that. So yeah, I'm definitely not the proponent. I think you may have seen this on my Instagram. There was a tweet that said like, Elon Musk is now the richest man in the world. All he had to do is like skip 32 billion, lattes, that kind of a thing.
I reshared your post.
Yeah,
it killed me.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's so funny. And it's like my pinned tweet on my Twitter account is like, dude, you're not going to build wealth that way. You need to put your money into cash flowing assets that pay you to own them, period. That's how you truly get ahead and build wealth. So yeah, I agree with you 1000%. And I think that's awesome. So this is another interesting video that I saw on your channel. I think it was the most recent one you did, talking about how you dropped out of college or how you didn't finish college, one of those two things. I didn't have a chance to watch the whole thing, but what are your thoughts on higher education?
So, it's a trick question. I hate, and here's the deal. If you can be polarizing, people usually like you or hate you more.
Yeah.
There's not a right answer for this question. I mean, you look at doctors, dentists, lawyers, engineers.
Specialized.
Yeah, they need to go to higher education, and we need those people. And if that's their passion, that's what they're going to love. That's what they're going to do well at. They can make a great income. They can use that income to invest. Like that's a great option. So I will be someone that will tell my kids, if they haven't already excelled in something, if they're not already making great money or feel like they've checked all their boxes per se of, a career, making sure that they're happy in what they're doing, making sure that they can progress, whatever their goals are for life, if they haven't found something to check those boxes, they need to go to school and figure it out. They need to experiment. They need to go and be part of that. And if they decide that they want to be the best lawyer ever, then yeah, they need to finish college. They need to get straight A's. They need to go to law school and they need to take that route. And that's a great route for them. Alternatively, for me, and this is what I talked about in my video, I got to a point where I was doing my accounting degree and I was going to go to law school. Now I got through the majority of my accounting degree. As a matter of fact, I got to where I have 9 credits left. And I think 4 or 5 of those were for the internship, where I had to devote like 20 or 30 hours a week to this internship. And it reached a point where I'm making literally, hundreds of thousands, even million plus a year with all of the stuff that I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And I'm still in college to get a piece of paper that I'm not going to ever use again. And so for me, there was a lot of social pressure from extended family and from friends and from everyone else that knew, I started college and I wanted to be able to say I finished because that's who I am. I'm someone that finishes what I start. But it reached a point where that was a waste of my time. And what I went to college to get or to pursue or, to find those boxes to check off I found them. I found my career. I found a way to invest. I found something I'm passionate about that provides for my family and gives me time to spend with my family. So why continue to go down that path when, college helped me find what checked off all the boxes for me, and it was time to be done with college. So could I have gone? A lot of people told me, Chandler, just go to a general studies major. You can take elective classes because you've got more than enough other credits from your accounting degree to just take electives and get your bachelor's degree. And I considered that. I even switched it and was going to do it. And I'm like, this is a joke. Why am I going and taking some, starter math class that's an easy breezy, something I did in 6th grade so that I can get a piece of paper. So I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to cut ties and I'm going to own it. And it is what it is.
I'm a big proponent of playing off your strengths. And I think your strengths are obviously you're very good at communicating. You're a great salesperson. You never tried selling me pest control, but I don't know. I'd probably slam the door in your face and you'd come back the second time and be like, somehow convince me to sign up for it. No, I'm kidding. But I think your strengths are, I'm sure you're a great accountant, great potential lawyer, all that stuff. But I think you're playing to your strengths. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of miss out on because they want to be like well-rounded or they're told to go a different route. In my opinion, when I look at a business and sports, I always make that analogy. Like, why would you take like Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. I think today's the 1-year anniversary of his death. Why would you take a Kobe Bryant and make him do like 6th grade math when he can, dunk and score 40 points a night in basketball? It's like you're not utilizing his strengths to their maximum ability or maximum potential. So I think that more people should focus on their strengths as opposed to just doing what society wants them to do. But on the other hand, because I'm somewhat like you, I want to give both sides of the spectrum. I think that building a solid foundation through education is a good way to at least get a base income. And then from there, that'll allow you to have a W-2 income. And then you can do nights and weekends. You can start a podcast, a YouTube channel. You can do summer sales like you did as an internship. And then maybe that will lead you to what you're really passionate about. I think that college is a good foundation, but just like the ROI, I don't really see it anymore, man, just especially with how expensive it is. I know you had the $1,200 per semester, but if you look at some of these like private schools and some of these D1 schools, I mean, it's getting like so not unattainable for like the middle class, but it's getting kind of crazy to where the ROI doesn't even justify it,
Yeah, well, and I think it's sad, but there are lots of people that make the decision. They hear, and this is what I wanted to make clear when I made this video, is they see, oh, Chandler dropped out of college, I should too. And they're not doing anything with their lives. They're being lazy at school when they're going and they want to quit it because they're lazy. Mm-hmm. Like that isn't a good reason to quit school and then be like, oh, I'm going to go figure it out. If you have no idea what to do with your life, I think it's great to go and give everything you've got to school, find a side hustle, experiment with other things. But when you're lost in life, I don't think it's a good idea to cut things out. I think if anything, add things in and sprint and try and get everything you can or use everything you can to find what your jam is as soon as possible. And that's where I think people make a mistake is it's like, oh, I'm going to quit college because it's not made for me. And they did one semester. It's like, you don't know what's made for you.
That's right.
So do something hard consistently until you're good at it. And then make the decision whether you want to keep going down that path or go a different direction.
Yeah, 100%. I like what you said. It resonated that you finish things that you start. And I think that's what a lot of people end up not doing. They end up somewhere in limbo in the middle and they never, figure out whether they're good at something or not. I feel like, even if you hated that accounting degree, for example, and you didn't have the early success that you did, you're the type of person that would have finished it and then would have figured something out after that, So I think that it's important to finish things that you start. If you were, sorry, go ahead.
And just to add to that, it's not, and this is something I would point out for other people. I had done all of my credits in my accounting degree with pretty much straight A's. At that point, you have the right to say, all right, I can choose a different direction, And so I just get frustrated when I see people that are flunking out of their classes and their classes are all that they're doing. Like, buckle down and make the most of whatever you're doing. And if you're doing something else, do the same. So just one more point. But
no, 100%. No. I agree. So the thing that I like about you and your channel is that I met you in person. You have a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, man. Congrats on the house, by the way, the one that you're building. I'm following it on Instagram. So in my opinion, you're the real deal. You hustled when you're young. You were smart enough to reinvest this money into real estate. You're actually, living what you talk about on YouTube. One of the things that I want to talk about that I'm seeing is starting to spring up more and more. I feel like there's always a certain set of these guys every generation, but I see like these fake gurus that don't have skin in the game, or they're just kind of telling you how to do things, but they don't own, 100 plus units, 1,000 plus units. They don't own, or they don't have skin in the game with what they're talking about. What are your thoughts on some of these like fake gurus and stuff? Do you run into those, or is it just me?
It's so hard because there are a lot out there, and it's very disappointing. I think that, and this is something that I tell people when they're coming to potentially work at my sales organization, when they're thinking about purchasing real estate or, whatever they're planning on doing, don't trust someone on anything unless they have a track record. And there's so many people that have come to me and been like, Chandler, I really want to start a YouTube channel on finance, or I really want to do this. And it's like, all right, like, show me what you've done to be the professional in that. And I think that the other thing that I've had to be careful with, though, is I have seen certain people in YouTube that are just extremely good researchers. And they've been able to prove that by doing good research and producing incredible content on their video. And again, that's another skill set. Mm-hmm. And so if you're watching and you've watched 100 videos of someone and they've given you huge value that's changed your life because that's their jam, like they're really good at researching and then sharing information, I think that's another thing that you can fall back on. But there are lots of people, like you said, that fall into the category where they don't have anything to show for what they're trying to make money off of. They're just trying to make money. And I know me and my brother went through that phase in high school where we're like, hey, let's set up like an affiliate program and just try and make money. And it's like, dude, that isn't good. It's not good to just do something to make money to begin with. And a lot of these people don't have the experience they need to share it. And it should be easy for people to see, but they don't. And that's what kills me.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it always ends up just trying to sell something like a pipe dream, because I feel like people, they're very motivated by like, obviously wealth, aesthetics, like, oh, get six pack abs overnight, that kind of a thing. But the one thing I wanted to touch about, and sorry, this is kind of off topic, but this spurred a thing where I saw another video of you with the Stradman. I do want to bring it back because I am a car guy. So you had that 458 Italia. Do you still have that?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so out of all these cars that you have, because you took me in, you had a Model 3 Performance, you had the Raptor, what else? You had the Ferrari 458. Out of all these cars, which is your favorite?
The Ferrari, for sure.
For sure? Okay, even more than the Corvette?
Yeah, so I love the Corvette. Like, I really love it. And the funny thing is, you were here, Marco, before. You would probably be the first person to say, guys, Chandler was not a car guy when I talked to him. Like, he had the Tesla and the Raptor, but when we would start talking cars, I'd be like, dude, you're over my head. Like, I'm not a car guy. But purchasing the Corvette turned me into a car guy. It's an animal. It's so fun, such a cool experience. And the best part is giving other people the experience. I love throwing my keys to one of my sales reps and saying, go take it for a spin. It's probably going to get me in trouble in the future, but it has been so fun to give people that experience. And so I love that car, but when you get inside of a Ferrari, it is just a crazy experience. It's so wild. You feel like it's a horse and it might decide to just do something on its own. And like, it's just like, come on, let me go.
Yeah.
So that's why that car, it's just an experience for sure.
Awesome. Cool. So what are your future plans for not only YouTube, but just like, not life in general? I think that's too deep of a question because, you are a father, you are a husband, but what are your future plans just for YouTube starting there, I guess?
Yeah. So I think this year especially, I got to the point where I really love YouTube. I love bringing value. I love getting the messages of, Chandler, I just bought my first duplex or my first fourplex or my first big multifamily. It's all because of you. It's all because of your videos. It's all because of the value you've brought. And so it's hard. People don't understand, but having a YouTube channel is hard. It's a lot of work, but it is so rewarding. And so I would love to build the channel to 1 million subscribers. And I know that's a big goal, a big dream, but I think this year, especially, I want to double down. I know we're trying to really up the value of the videos. I've hired a couple people to help me to do that. And I really want to do everything I can to bring as much value as possible in that space. I think when it comes to my door-to-door sales organization, same thing. I love the fact that I've helped dozens of reps make enough money in their 20s to where they now own lots of real estate. And so I want to build that too. And I think for me, the biggest change I'm trying to make over the next little bit is saying no to the right things, because there's not enough time in the day to give my family the time that I want to give them and give these businesses the time that I want to give them. And on top of that, I want to get to 1,000 units of rental real estate. And so I'm definitely in my say no to the right things phase and building a team around me that can handle a lot more of the stuff that I'm not necessarily needed for. So YouTube is going to be a big focus. Making sure that my sales organization have what they need is going to be a big focus. And then building teams to continue to find deals for me is going to be a big focus. But my biggest focus is by 6 o'clock, I'm done with all work, so that every day, the rest of that time is for my family, and same for weekends. And it's just one of those things that, I've gotten everything I originally wanted, and I love it. I love building. I'll always work, but family's going to come first above anything else.
Love it. I love it. That's a great response, man. I think that you're super smart in building the right systems. You mentioned that you have a team bringing you deals, or I'm sure some sort of, brokers and things like that. Are you doing off-market deals, and will you ever consider, ground up construction, like new development?
It's a great question. Yes, to all of the above. I've done everything I can to find as many deal sources as possible. So I'll have people that are in-house, whether it's sending out mailers, whether it's running ads, whether it's knocking doors, they're going to be finding deals for me. And we've already started doing that. I always have, 5 or 6 realtors that I've kept a relationship with that know if they bring a deal that meets my criteria, I'm going to purchase it. And the reason I have so much purchasing power is I make great money from what I'm doing, but I also have, like I said, dozens of sales reps that are looking for property right now too. And I don't take any money on those. I love finding them and flipping them to my people, but we haven't had enough deal flow for the people we have that want to buy properties. And so, all of the above, I've always tried to keep relationships and build a team and do everything else so that deals are consistently coming in. Will I buy a deal off the MLS? Yeah, if I can make it work. Sometimes bigger properties come where, my realtors are first on the spot to try and lock it down and negotiate and say, hey, let's cut off all offers. Let's take this off. He can close in 15 days. Let's get this done. I'm still going to do that as well. Anything that brings me a deal that meets my criteria, we're going to be doing.
Perfect. So we are coming at about 40 minutes now. Typically, I like to not end the show, but just to open up another stream of conversation. I typically ask, what book would you recommend? It could be fiction, nonfiction, or just what reading material would you recommend to the audience?
The Happiness Advantage. And I've got a bunch of others. If you're looking more sales, I'd say pitch anything. But the reason I say The Happiness Advantage is happiness needs to come first, and then success will follow. And if you're always looking for success so that you can be happy, you're never going to be happy. It just doesn't work that way. And it's a book that I find myself wrapped up in trying to get success. I read it as much as I can because it's so important to just be happy, to enjoy life, to make the most of it. And the happier you are, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny when I first met you in person, like when we were recording half these videos, we're just like, should we do this? Should we do that? Just send it, let's just do it. And we're just, we're having a good time. And that's the vibe that I got, I could tell, just meeting your family and stuff, everyone was just good vibes, which is awesome. I think that's super important. I think a lot of people, if they're pursuing a side hustle, I talk about this a lot in all my other episodes, is that you have to come from the right place of wanting to either help others or provide value, or maybe it's a hobby that you just like yourself and you just want to document it or put it on YouTube or write a blog about it, for example. I think if you go into it with trying to make money, like how you mentioned, me and my brother tried the affiliate marketing thing, when money comes first, I feel like that's the wrong reason to start something. But at the same time, if you're providing value, you should absolutely be compensated for that. And I think with all that comes happiness. It's kind of like, I'm helping people, I'm getting paid for it, I'm happy helping them, they're happy receiving the information. It's like a big win-win-win kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is it's okay to have it all, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's okay to get
so
paid,
frustrating.
Man.
Yeah, it's frustrating for me, and it's the same with all of my businesses working together and everything else. everything in your life can mesh and can work. And you just got to find a way to do that. But you're right. I mean, when I started my YouTube channel, it was because I was getting drilled with questions about real estate and I couldn't keep up. I couldn't do a lunch meeting every day to just talk about real estate. And so it was a way to do that. And then 15 videos in, I'm like, hey, people like this. I've seen other people on YouTube that are doing well with it. I enjoy it. Let's pursue this. And I didn't make any money on my YouTube channel until like a year and a half in.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that. And that's why I was able to continue doing it, is because I enjoyed it. And I think it's that way with everything.
Yeah. I think when I met you, this was about a year and a half ago now, you were at like 10 or 12,000 subscribers or something like that. Now you're at 100,000, which is awesome. A lot of your videos are getting, 6-figure views, 5-figure views, which is awesome. If you want to leave the listeners to the podcast with one last tip of information, whether it's about, real estate or just life advice or anything like that, now that you're 30 years old, what would you do if you were back, let's just say freshman in college or about to graduate college, early 20s, late teens kind of a thing?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Everybody's in a different situation, but I think there are times in life where you need to sprint and there are times in life where you need to find balance. And I've always believed that in your 20s is the time to sprint. You can have a lot of fun. There are lots of good experiences. You need to enjoy that journey. But at the same time, you don't have a wife, you don't have kids, you don't have these things that I promise you are going to be your priority. And so I always tell people, find a way to sprint at that time. Find a way to figure out what you're passionate about. Get on that and go all in on it, because then when you get to the point where you're 30 like me, you can have everything you want. You can determine your schedule. You can spend the time with your family that you want. You can chase your passions and your dreams. You can have huge goals because you sprinted early. Because I'll tell you right now, we watched the Undercover Billionaire, and I think that's an awesome principle. But if I was starting right now, it would be so hard to have a kids and wife and be in this time where I know to ever get to my dreams or passions, I've got to sprint. And I'm not saying you can't do it, but when you're in your 20s, find a way to sprint and find a way to, and maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but find a way to not just get paid hourly, but to get paid for the work that you put in and then work harder than anybody else. And when you can put yourself in a situation like that, it's going to be a lot easier to get ahead.
Yeah, 100%. I think that your 20s should be your springboard, for your 30s and 40s. A lot of people now, they're, trying to get into that FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early. And some of the people, they're kind of living like super frugal, where it's like, you're not even enjoying life at this point. But if you kind of sacrifice now, you can definitely make a significant income by your 30s and 40s to where you don't have to work as hard as you want. And I can tell you just from personal experience, man, when I went full time on YouTube, yes, I'm still working. I'm doing podcast interviews, I'm doing videos, I'm doing courses, I'm doing, a bunch of stuff. But at the same time, I have control of my own schedule, which instead of having to wake up and go to, the cubicle or a W-2 job or, whatever, I'm kind of working for myself. And the things that I'm building now, it's more rewarding because it's kind of building your own thing and building your own brand, if you will. So for me, it's much more rewarding work. It's still work, don't get me wrong, but it's more rewarding. And I think you've been a great example of that as well. So where can people learn more about you, Chandler? I know you're obviously on YouTube. Any other websites or courses or anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. So if you search Chandler David Smith on any platform, you'll find me. That's my website. That's my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube, my TikTok. I'm on TikTok, Marco.
How is TikTok, man? I feel like a senior citizen on TikTok.
I feel the same, but we're experimenting with it this year. So I'll let you know.
Yeah,
We've got like 10,000 followers there. So
that's awesome.
We'll see what happens.
That's great. Yeah, I definitely want to get on there. I feel like
I started it like a week and a half ago. So you got to do it.
Perfect. Yeah, I feel like if I just chopped up my videos into little segments, I think that would be the way. That way I don't have to create, new content specifically for TikTok, but we'll see. I don't know. I feel like when I see people like, dancing and talking about like, buying Tesla and stuff like that, I'm just like, I don't know if this is me, dude. This is not my jam, but we'll see.
Well, I think and this is one thing I was going to say to you. You have the most awesome brand, the most awesome audience. I mean, you have found a way where you just get to be you and you get to share the things you're passionate about and bring huge value. And I've come to find that it doesn't matter what the platform is. If you're comfortable and you're just you, and I don't see you being as a dancing finance guy.
I'm not that good of a dancer.
I do see the brand you've created, and regardless of the platform, people love you and the way that you present, and the way that you share things. And I think you'd kill it on TikTok just doing what you do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And that's a good takeaway. You as well, man. Like the amount of value in your channel, it's like it could easily be, you know, a course or university or anything like that. I mean, you just put it out there for free, which is awesome. And the biggest thing that I like about you, I'm not saying this to kiss your ass or anything like that, but when I follow you on Instagram and I see all of your sales agents, how, you know, you're getting them into the right mindset of assets versus liabilities and that active income that we talked about and parlaying that into the passive income. I mean, you're changing lives, dude, like truly. So I appreciate you coming on, man. Any other parting words for the audience?
You know, just thank you so much. That's so nice of you. And I think just enjoy the journey, man. Like I think we've all hit those times where we're like, I'm never going to get there. Do what you know you need to do and you'll get there, but enjoy the process.
Yeah, the process, the amount, I look at some of my old videos, man, it's like I think in my late 20s when I started on YouTube, it was like I was a kid almost. Like I'm not physically or anything like that, but I feel like just the amount of experience I've gotten, the amount of maturity over the years, it's kind of like you see yourself evolving, and it's a really good thing at the end. And I'm sure you've seen the same in yourself.
Yeah, totally. Well, you're doing something wrong if you can't look back a year or two and be like, look at this jokester, man. I'm glad I pulled out of that. Glad I'm doing better than I was.
Absolutely.
So, I'm sure we'll do that our whole lives if we're doing it right.
Love it. Thank you so much, Chandler. I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Hey, thank you. This was a blast.
All right, see ya.
Thank you for listening to the Whiteboard Finance Show. To read more about today's episode, visit whiteboardfinance.com. And don't forget to subscribe to Whiteboard Finance on YouTube. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Investing of any kind involves risk. While it is possible to minimize your risk, your investments are solely your responsibility. This show is copyrighted by Zlatic Media LLC. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or broadcasting.